Tactics, strategy is what we're going to talk about. So I have a question, an overarching question for the conversation, which is why do marketers keep chasing tactics over strategy? But before we get into all of that, the first question I want to ask you is strategy or strategic thinking now, today, and people's understanding of it. Do you think it's just used as a chucked around buzzword? And or, if it is, do you think it's misunderstood? Strategy.
Both.
The end. Tell me more.
I think strategy is something that takes time to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So in where it gets thrown around, I think, is a lack of experience. But then also it's difficult to definitively show the value of what's defined as strategy, which sometimes leads marketers to put strategy in there, or in the other circumstance, perhaps even avoid strategy altogether in favour of vanity,
Actions and tactics and
transactional metrics, where you do something that influences a metric, when in reality strategy is just, well, it's always been important, but it's going to get more and more important.
What's your definition? How do you see strategy for you in terms of throughout your career? And I guess how do you think it, with that, has it evolved throughout your career?
Whew.
Big.
For me, I guess strategy comes down to defining why you're doing something, understanding the brand, the client, the audience, and what the purpose of what you're proposing is. Which, zooming out, in today's world, is a skill that's just going to be more in demand, because the nature of certainly digital is becoming not just one siloed thing. It's about many different touch points, many different platforms. And I think strategy and good strategists understand how to harness that attention in the right way, whereas tacticians are skilled in certain things, but sometimes don't have the experience or foresight to think about why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah. And do you see that coming from, let's say, experience and seniority?
It's tough to define, because I think if you go looking for or trying to define strategy, I think every level is capable of it. It's just thinking about things in a certain way and being able to communicate it in a certain way. And I think where experience comes in is, like I say, strategy, if it's being done properly, it's not a nice to have, and it's not just a buzzword, and it actually means something, and being able to communicate it in a simple way is an art form in itself.
Yeah.
Which is where I think less experienced people would struggle to communicate it in the right way, which is where they then fall back on, well, I know if I do this, this is going to happen. That's not strategy, that's a tactic.
Yeah. And do you feel like tactics are all too often a bit of a safety zone because of that?
Yeah.
And it was interesting when you said right back at the beginning, like strategy can be hard to not just define, but I guess validate to some extent, or at least relative to a tactic or tactics or taking actions. So it feels like it's a comfort. And as we keep saying on so many different episodes, instant, like, what do we call it?
Gratification.
Yeah, instant gratification safety net, because you're able to then, you know, if we were having a conversation about reporting last month or whatever, going into the tactical reporting, it feels like you can give someone something and yourself.
Well, you do. It's a benchmark, isn't it? The world we live in is driven on instant gratification and perfection. And I think strategy sometimes gets messy. But if you take like performance-based marketing and then like brand-based marketing, for example, and run them alongside, they complement each other, and I think that's what strategy is. It's improving the efficacy of all effort
in a coordinated and connected way.
Yeah, and then you can track the touch points that you can track, and you can look at the data that you've got. But I think sometimes you've just got to have a better awareness of how things can be effective in the context of everything that you're doing.
Yeah. Would you say that, therefore, in your example that you're just talking through, that brand-led marketing, say, versus performance marketing, are they, in sort of simple terms, as much as you can dumb them down, are they collections of tactics? So they also almost, the tactics sit underneath them, but you're still not at a strategic level.
I think you can do brand marketing. You can't do brand marketing without strategy. You can do performance marketing without strategy.
Right, yeah. And
because it's frameworked,
that's what we're
it's
going to...
black and white. You know which levers to pull, and it's structured. I think brand is a bit more reactive. You've got to understand who you're talking to consistently, and you've got to stay true. And then you sort of click in all the other components.
Is there a time-based association in your mind with strategy versus tactics?
I think strategy has got to be forever.
But it can change. It has to.
It has to change, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas tactics, going back to it, instant gratification, to your point as well, you use the word vanity, yeah. Do we feel like this messy sort of use of strategy in the wrong places, when actually you're talking a set of tactics, for example? Do you think that's because there's still too much short-termism?
Yeah.
And again, it's feeding that same circle in my mind of short-termism, KPIs probably being more attainable and reportable from a tactic level rather than a strategy level. Is that what you think as well?
Well, I think a lot of the time strategy's subjective, which means it's going to differ in opinion from person to person, and you can't, like, say, standardize that strategic thinking. There's no framework. Like, you can produce a tech audit, and largely what you will do is the same each time you do it. There is no output or playbook that is defined. There's methodology and there's principles that apply to strategy, but there's no one size fits all. And I think that's where sometimes, because of the mindset of modern brands, it can become, or it can be viewed as less valuable, especially if the performance activities that are being done alongside it are not doing well.
Yeah.
Or the strategy's wrong.
Yeah. Thinking about sort of internal pressures that marketers have from non-marketers, just, boards, whatever. Do you feel like, again, almost into that safety net or autopilot, that those removed from marketing just immediately go to either what you've just said, that the strategy is wrong, or tactics, do more of, and then they'll say something, do you know what I mean? They'll say something that is do more of, and it's a tactic or it's an action.
Yeah, well, that's what the surge in performance marketing is. It's ROI based, it's transactional, it's how much are we going to put in this month and how much are we going to get out the back of it.
Yeah.
When in reality, that while that tactic is valid and is something that needs to happen, it's not the whole picture or the whole story. You're looking for brand recall. You're looking for occupying someone's journey when they've got mental availability for your product, for your service. Turning performance into your North Star and putting it on a pedestal because you can measure it is short-termist. So if you imagine, like, the conversation we're probably going to be having in the next 12, 18 months is take all advertising mediums out the equation. No search, no social, no TV, no radio, nothing. And then you ask someone a question. And this is not to say that those marketing activities haven't happened. I'm talking from this point on. If you ask someone or if they have a need for something and then you ask them to recall a brand, could they recall your brand? Could they recall your service in that question? If the answer is, I don't know, maybe you need more. If the answer is no, you're not doing it right. If the answer is yes, you're probably doing something right.
Yeah, it's quite a brutal but clear from a brand self-reflection. And yeah, I might start rolling that out to people. In terms of strategy, then, does strategy come first and tactics follow? Because tactics should be informed by strategy.
So here's where it gets messy, because commercial pressure is hard, the economy is hard, performance is fast. So if you have a brand that are not doing well, not generating enough revenue, and you can optimize performance to improve revenue, that should happen first. At which point you then need to start thinking about your long term. But you can run that in parallel. It's going to be defined by budget constraints. However, it's circumstantial. If you're in an absolute shit show, there are certain levers you can pull quicker than others that are going to take priority. The thing that brands fail to do is realize that the over-reliance on performance is in play.
So in that example you've just given there, let's say a brand is in a tough spot with the backdrop of an economy and the market conditions that are tough. Few of those levers they access quickly and see some momentum in that period. Are you saying that then they almost get distracted by that and double down on what they think is sustainable around what has just worked?
well, it's fucking hard, isn't it, when you've got into a pattern of spending a certain amount, getting a certain amount back consistently, knowing that you can take that to your CFO and go, spending this, we're getting this.
Yeah.
Job done, don't change it.
Yeah.
But here's what's going to happen. Certainly in search, you're not going to get attribution in the same way that you have. SEO as a channel has been fucking wildly underpriced for the last 20 years. The heyday's gone. It's really hard to get that to work for you now. Going to get even harder. You're going to have to do more than just think about that last click. And you're not going to be able to have that immediate gratification and that validation of it's working.
Yeah. Yeah.
AI's fucked that. Because Google's, just announced AI mode. They're not looking at the SERP in the same way. They're looking at hyper-personalized, very, very good, valuable user experience. You may get a splattering of links in AI mode, which isn't how it's currently operating. I'm going to throw it out there. I reckon that they will add links into the results, and then you will see an evolution of it. But you've got to start thinking about how you increase your relevance and harness the attention in the places that your users are. And for all brands that work with agencies, that's not your agency trying to get more money out of you. That's them telling you how it currently is, what you need to do to succeed. And unfortunately, that means it's going to take more resource to probably get you there. Now, once that publicly matures, AI, in the same way in which it's changing search, will mean that operational efficiencies through agencies that are doing it right will balance the cost difference, because agencies should be in a position to be able to deliver more across more platforms at a similar operating cost to what they were doing, because AI will take a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of repetitive tasks, recurring tasks, strategy, planning, all that kind of stuff. But it'll take a bit to get there, and it's going to take for some trust and some forward-thinking brands to understand that that's what they need to do now and do with their partners to get through the next 2 years of turbulence into the next 5-10 years of operating in the landscape as it's going to be.
Yeah. You've just said something really interesting there that I want to get your gut feeling on, because I don't think we're there yet, as you've said, in those timeframes with AI and where it is now and where we think it's heading, and the how much better and faster we can use AI or ally with AI to be able to execute a lot of what you just talked through there. Where does strategy versus tactics come into what AI can do right now, and or where you think it's heading? And it's a bit of a loaded question, because I want to get your thoughts on, at the start of this conversation you talked about the why. Can AI get there in terms of so it's almost like does the future, the current and or the future of AI in terms of its possibilities, does it, I'm going to say, take more from a tactician than it does a strategist?
No. Take the human out of AI now, take the human out of AI in 5 years. What have you got? You haven't got an input.
No.
What does AI need to operate? An input. So the way that I'm thinking about it now is we're coming up to the end of our May games, which is a competition and a system designed to empower everybody within the business to experiment and use AI to improve the day-to-day. That's the outcome that we're looking for. What people don't know yet is the off the back of that, we're designing some training which is going to leverage getting people to think creatively in how they use AI.
Yeah.
Because, and I could be wrong, but the way that I'm looking at it is everybody's got a very specific set of skills and specializes in certain things within the agency, but as it stands today, 50% of what they do can be done with AI. That number is going to increase. So what we're going to be able to do is start transitioning to using AI to build almost teams underneath the teams
Got you.
that are going to do the lifting, that are going to do the nuts and bolts work that then the teams don't have to do. What the teams are going to have to then do is think strategically, think creatively, and be the almost like the composer.
Yeah, like the director
of their AI
yeah.
orchestra.
Yeah.
And that's how we achieve better service for clients, better results, doing more of what's effective, focusing on the strategy, the brand element, the recall, the user behavior, understanding, spending the time to understand the client's audience, which I would argue we don't do enough of because of the time constraints that we're under.
Yeah.
So where we're going to end up in another 2-3 years is more effective strategy for brands in the ecosystem that's going to develop fast. And what I'm hoping we're going to be able to deliver, if everybody gets on board and truly embraces it and understands where to use it, how to use it, why to use it, capable of building what they need to build autonomously to improve it, that will mean we should find ourselves in a position to increase turnover and profit, which I'm hoping at the levels that we'd be able to increase operational efficiency, we'll then be able to pay the people that we've got more, but not have the need to hire.
Yeah, so
what we're going to be shooting for is increasing revenue. Like I'm talking like 2-3 times whilst keeping headcount at a similar level.
Yeah. Do you know of anyone else adopting that future objective?
No. But I don't know. There's 8,000 agencies in UK alone. I'm sure there's a lot of people and a lot of leaders that are thinking about it in that way. It's just facilitating. It's the hardest thing.
Yeah. So outside of agencies that are marketing agencies, are you aware of businesses that are starting up as just a one-person AI composer, to use your...
Well, there's tons of tech businesses that are cropping up now that have got small teams that are doing silly revenue, but they're riding the wave.
Like they're a headcount wise, a big team.
Cursor, 20 people, at last time I checked, something like 3 million a month.
Yeah.
There's lots of tech-based businesses that are utilizing the technology to do things and achieve things that would have taken hundreds of people. Look at Klarna, for example. Klarna have literally squashed 750 customer service jobs and are answering, off the top of my head, something ludicrous like 4 million support tickets a month are being answered by AI, and it's saving them millions and millions and millions in revenue. These are the things that are quietly happening now that are just going to be commonplace in another 2 years.
Yeah, all in the name of efficiency.
But it means the things that make people brilliant are the things that people need to double down on. Emotional intelligence, how to build better relationships, and then how to think. And I know that sounds abstract, but it's going to be more important.
Yeah.
Because the perfection that AI can achieve, AI can't do the things that humans are great at doing because it needs an input.
Yeah.
So you need to master the input.
Yeah. So from continuing on from that thread, where do you see AI sitting across strategy and tactics, across both?
No, I think people are going to fill strategy, and I think it's important that people do.
And do you see that's where mastering the input comes from, having been influenced by setting the strategy?
Yeah.
Because you're almost taking that why.
Yeah. You don't get, if you're look at it like assigning credit, and you think, right, I'm going to do these tasks from this tech audit. I'm going to, I don't know, years ago, update all these title tags. AI can do that for you now. So then you get the credit for the strategy. AI doesn't need the credit to do that, right? That's what I'm trying to get into some sort of framework so that it can be communicated in that way.
So do you see a future where people are more strategic thinkers?
I hope so. You can't really teach creativity in the way that humans use it, and strategy falls into the same line of thinking.
Yeah.
And then also, you've got to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
Because there'll be businesses and CEOs and boards and marketing teams that you need to communicate effectively with. And I think historically, certainly in the structure of an agency, you work up to being able to communicate to a client effectively based on experience, expertise. Whereas I think you can get a jump on that.
Yeah, interpersonal skills come.
Better speaking, better communication, better creative thinking, better strategic thinking, and then also being able to communicate it and understand the mechanics of everything that sits underneath it. And I think being able to, AI is quite complicated, isn't it? Being able to simplify the mechanics of all the components that you will have that are being driven by AI is going to become valuable in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see the bank of questions evolve from clients into agencies and vice versa in terms of around a process that looks like that. And to be effective communicators around, again, probably the why as well as the what. Good. Thank you. Anything else to say about strategy and tactics?
I don't think so. Still, I think we're struggling to get through a conversation without going into AI at depth, but I think that's just reflective of where we're at right now.
I mean, it's there, isn't it?
It's multiplying and it's coming on in quicker than anybody anticipated, I think.
I've got a different quickfire round for you. I'm going to read out a sentence and a prompt, and you're going to tell me if it's strategy or tactic, followed by a one-sentence justification. Number 1, launching a podcast to position your agency as a thought leader. Strategy or tactic?
Tactic.
I agree. Setting a 12-month brand awareness goal tied to market expansion.
Blurry, but probably more on the side of strategy. However, I think that's probably veering into short term in terms of brand.
12-month.
Strategy tentatively. And then to follow it on, what tactics would come underneath it.
Yeah. I'll do one more, and then I've got a question to ask you about how you've thought about those. Choosing not to post on every single social platform.
Yeah, I would go where your audience is. Figure out where your audience is. Develop native content. Be authentic. This is another thing that's going to happen. Authenticity is already becoming squeezed, so people can quite clearly see when it's authentic, and they're going to crave it more and more. Perfection is becoming commoditized, and yet the last 5 years everybody's spent trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect LinkedIn post, perfect image, perfect video for social. People are moving away from that. People want human to human, and it's going to become more and more prevalent.
Well, it is, because of the way that we're all going to be using everything that we've talked about.
How do you achieve imperfection? You automate and make more efficient what you can through AI, and spend more time on the strategy and more time on the output.
Final question about those three prompts as to whether you thought there was strategy or tactic is, for people listening who might be interested in how your mind works. When I threw each one of those out, were you asking yourself like a question that would almost get you to whether it was strategy or tactic? Because, like, for example, we talked about short-termism versus long-termism. We talked about the why as well. So was there almost a way that you were analysing those very quickly, because it's a quick fire round, as to whether one was strategy or tactic? And if there's like almost those thoughts that you're having, all those questions that you're asking around those, if you could share any of them, because people might want to adopt them.
Well, I think it's my understanding of both. And I think we touched on it, didn't we, right at the start? What falls in strategy, what forms a tactic in this context. Tactics are levers that can be pulled. Strategy is, I think, the destination that you're trying to get to. And I think it's, when you understand that, it's easy to differentiate.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, like that first one I said, launching a podcast to be positioned as a thought leader. I think it's apparent very quickly that that's a tactic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you've got to... Thought leadership's a funny one. I would still just hinge it on trying to provide value to the audience that you're trying to talk to.
Yeah, thought leadership is a weird one. Thank you.
Do you know what might be a good exercise? If you ask ChatGPT those questions.
What, those that I just asked you?
Yeah.
What do you think, whether it's strategy or tactic?
Yeah.
I'll get Polly to do it, because she's already got it set up.
I mean now.
All right. I don't have ChatGPT on here.
Hey, yeah, I'm here. What's up?
You can ask.
Sure thing.
I'm going to read out a prompt, and you're going to tell me whether it is strategy or tactic.
Got it. Go ahead and read out the prompt when you're ready.
Launching a podcast to position your agency as a thought leader.
That's a strategy. It focuses on a long-term goal of establishing thought leadership and building your brand's authority.
Interesting. Thank you. I have another prompt for you.
Of course, I'm ready when you are.
Setting a 12-month brand awareness goal tied to market expansion.
That's also a strategy. It's about defining a long-term objective to guide your overall efforts in expanding your market presence and boosting brand recognition.
Okay. Thank you. And a final prompt.
Sure, go ahead.
Choosing not to post on every social platform.
That's a tactic. It's a specific decision or action within your broader strategy, aimed at optimizing your social media presence and focusing resources where they'll have the most impact.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you have any more questions, just let me know.
There you have it.
Hopefully she's not going to replace us as hosts on this podcast.
Hopefully not.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.